reason for anyone from a township to go to a mayor's conference. Mayor's conference is a mayor's conference for mayors.
I was saying, no, he's not employed by us. So you have got just the...
Have you ever seen a mayor act more like a reality television star than a public official? Meet Tiffany Henyard. If you thought small-town politics were dull, think again. With power struggles, extravagant spending, lawsuits, and even corruption claims, the drama surrounding Henyard is nothing short of an opera. The ongoing dispute between Henyard, the so-called supermayor, and the board of trustees is filled with twists and turns that keep everyone on edge. Buckle up as we dive deep into the controversy that has gripped Dalton, Illinois, with Henyard at the center of it all.
A motion to terminate Chief
Tiffany Henyard, the embattled mayor of Dalton, a small Chicago suburb with a population of about 200,000, is once again at the center of controversy, this time over the town's budget. At a recent Board of Trustees meeting, tensions reached a boiling point as Henyard, known for her bold and often arrogant demeanor, attempted to fast-track the budget approval process. She entered the meeting with characteristic confidence, insisting that the budget needed to be passed immediately. However, the trustees were not swayed. They stood their ground, refusing to simply rubber-stamp her agenda without a thorough review. The trustees insisted that a proper finance meeting was necessary, allowing residents the chance to weigh in and fully evaluate the budget details before its approval. Henyard, however, refused to entertain this request for transparency, sparking frustration among both trustees and residents. Many felt that their concerns about financial mismanagement under Henyard's leadership were being dismissed without consideration. As the meeting grew more heated, trustees underscored the importance of fiscal accountability, especially given the town's current financial woes. Henyard, in response, argued that any delays would only worsen the town's challenges. The board meeting soon devolved into a fiery standoff, symbolizing the larger power struggle that has come to define Henyard's tumultuous tenure as mayor. Her administration has been marred by scandals, allegations of misuse of funds, and an ever-growing divide between her leadership and the residents she was elected to serve. The increasingly vocal residents expressed frustration with Henyard's insistence on pushing through the budget without proper scrutiny. It became clear that this budget battle was about far more than just financial numbers. It was a flashpoint for deeper issues of trust, governance, and Henyard's controversial approach to leadership. The meeting left the community wondering if their voices would ever truly be heard under her administration.
Appointment. That's what the trustees I talked to are calling this. They say the news took them by surprise, and now they're talking to legal counsel to figure out their next.
Let us set the scene. Mayor Tiffany Henyard strides into the boardroom with her usual boldness, ready to push for the immediate approval of Dalton's budget. No further evaluations, no delays. True to her form, she is firm, assertive, and nearly demanding, insisting that it is time to move forward. Her argument? She claims to have already done everything the trustees asked of her, held discussions, made adjustments, and ticked off all the required boxes. In her view, there is no reason for more back and forth. It is time to move forward, she declares, her tone leaving little room for negotiation. But the trustees are not buying it. Confused, frustrated, and truthfully likely fed up, they meet her push with a wall of skepticism. Trustee Tammy Brown is a prime example of this resistance. Her face speaks volumes as she listens to Henyard's insistence. Her weariness is plain to see. Like her fellow trustees, Brown is not prepared to rubber-stamp this budget without first doing her due diligence. She wants transparency, accountability, and above all, she wants to ensure that the people of Dalton, the residents who will feel the real impact of this budget, are given the chance to voice their opinions. Yet, as is all too familiar with Henyard, she brushes past these concerns, pushing forward with a singular focus that leaves little room for debate. The tension in the room is palpable as Henyard's demands clash with the trustees' resistance. They feel strongly that a proper process must take place, including a public finance meeting where residents can scrutinize the budget and raise their questions. Henyard, however, is resolute. Patience has never been her strong suit, and tonight is no exception. She categorically dismisses any notion of delay, doubling down on her stance that further evaluations or public discourse are unnecessary. In her mind, waiting is a luxury Dalton cannot afford. Transparency is just a hurdle that is slowing progress. Her defiance leaves many in the room incredulous, not least of whom are the trustees tasked with upholding the public's trust. For Trustee Brown and others, this is a breaking point. It is not just about the budget anymore. It is about principles, governance, and the growing sense that Mayor Henyard is more interested in dictating terms than engaging in collaborative leadership. With Dalton already reeling from financial challenges and accusations of mismanagement under Henyard's administration, the demand for accountability is stronger than ever. For many residents, this budget is not just a policy document. It is a test of whether their voices will be heard and whether their concerns will be addressed. But as Henyard barrels ahead with her unwavering stance, her unwillingness to engage in a more inclusive, transparent process only fans the flames of suspicion and discontent. To many in the room, her insistence on urgency feels less like decisive leadership and more like an attempt to sidestep scrutiny. The meeting devolves into a symbolic showdown, a microcosm of the larger tensions that have come to define Henyard's leadership style. As the trustees push back and Henyard pushes harder, it becomes evident that this is not just about numbers or spreadsheets. It is about trust, governance, and whether Dalton can move forward under the shadow of a mayor whose approach seems to prioritize expedience over accountability. At its core, this is a clash of ideologies, Henyard's strong-armed tactics versus the trustees' demand for a democratic, transparent process. As the night wears on, the air in the room grows heavier with each exchange. For both the residents and trustees, the stakes could not be higher. This is not just about passing a budget. It is about the very future of Dalton and whether its leadership is willing to stand for the values that the community expects and deserves. Whether Henyard's uncompromising stance will win out or whether the trustees' calls for transparency will prevail remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, this is more than just a budget battle. It is a referendum on Henyard's tenure, one that will have lasting repercussions for the entire town.
We knew it was going to be a little messy, but it's just something we felt important that had to be done, that should be done. So, but like I said, yeah, just some kind.
The drama truly unfolds when Mayor Tiffany Henyard presses the trustees to approve Dalton's budget without further delay. Her characteristic bravado takes center stage, and she is resolute in her demand to push through the budget with minimal scrutiny. However, the trustees, far from capitulating, begin to push back, exposing cracks in Henyard's approach to leadership. Trustee Jason House is among the first to voice skepticism, questioning why no proper finance meeting has been held yet, an essential step in the process. His pointed inquiry highlights Henyard's failure to follow due process, setting the tone for what becomes a contentious evening. Next, Trustee Brittany Norwood, not one to mince words, calls Henyard out bluntly. She accuses her of lacking transparency and failing to engage with both the board and the residents. How about you be a good leader and bring proposals to the forefront so not just us, but residents and everyone else in America know how the money is being spent? Norwood's words cut deep, and the room holds its breath in anticipation of Henyard's response. True to form, Henyard does not back down. Instead, she doubles down on her defiant stance, escalating the tension as she tries to reassert control over the meeting. At one point, Henyard delivers a dramatic lecture aimed at the trustees, saying, "You all forget I am the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. You all have not learned that yet." Her tone drips with condescension, as though she is reminding them who is in charge. What could have been an opportunity for collaboration quickly morphs into a power struggle as Henyard's focus shifts from passing the budget to asserting her dominance over the board. Meanwhile, the trustees, clearly growing more exasperated, stand their ground. This is no longer just a debate about numbers or funding priorities. It is a battle over principles of governance, transparency, and accountability. The deeper issue at hand is Henyard's leadership style, which prioritizes control and expedience over unity and dialogue, and it is beginning to wear thin. Her unwillingness to address the trustees' concerns or engage in a proper review process signals a troubling disregard for the very checks and balances that are meant to protect the public interest. As the meeting drags on, frustration builds in the room. For the trustees, the issue is not merely Henyard's heavy-handed tactics, but her broader pattern of sidelining key democratic processes to push through her agenda. Trustee Norwood's insistence on accountability resonates deeply, underscoring what the residents of Dalton deserve: clarity on how their money is being spent and a say in the decisions that directly impact their lives. Adding fuel to the fire, Henyard's dual role as both the mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township looms large in the background. While that aspect of her leadership has its own complexities, in this moment it feeds into the broader narrative of her perceived overreach and inability to juggle competing responsibilities effectively. This duality has raised questions about whether Henyard's focus on consolidating power has come at the expense of Dalton's governance. Her push to bulldoze the budget through without further review mirrors larger concerns about her administration's lack of transparency and disregard for collaborative leadership. What could have been a forum for constructive debate devolves into a stark confrontation, a microcosm of the power dynamics at play in Dalton. Henyard continues to press, arguing that any delays are unnecessary and that it is time to move forward. However, her approach does little to sway the trustees, who dig in even deeper, refusing to approve the budget without thorough scrutiny. This is not just a battle over numbers anymore. It is about setting a precedent for how leadership should operate in Dalton. The trustees make it clear that they will not let Henyard's impatience or authoritarian streak override the need for due process. For the residents of Dalton, the stakes could not be higher. The budget is not just an abstract financial document. It represents how their taxes will be used, how their community will be governed, and how their elected officials will prioritize issues that matter to them. Many residents share the trustees' concerns, unwilling to support a mayor who appears to prioritize her own agenda over transparency and inclusion. This tension underscores the growing divide between Henyard's administration and the people she claims to serve. As the meeting continues to spiral, it becomes increasingly evident that Henyard's strategy of pushing the budget through without addressing valid concerns is backfiring. Her resistance to compromise only strengthens the trustees' resolve, reinforcing their stance that the budget requires proper evaluation and public input. In a community already grappling with financial challenges and a history of mistrust in local governance, this battle is about more than just approving a budget. It is about the future direction of Dalton itself. The more Henyard digs in her heels, the more the trustees seem resolute in ensuring that the budget receives the scrutiny it deserves. What was once a simple procedural meeting has turned into a defining moment for the town, where the community is watching closely to see whether its leaders will prioritize transparency, inclusivity, and accountability or allow a single leader to dictate the terms of governance. The tension in the room reflects broader concerns about the town's future. For the trustees, the outcome of this meeting will serve as a test of whether Dalton can move forward under Henyard's leadership or whether it will require a shift in direction, a leadership that respects the principles of democracy, checks and balances, and the will of the people. The stakes are high, and the residents of Dalton, along with the trustees, are looking for leadership that values transparency and collaboration over the unchecked power of a single figure. This is about more than just a budget. It is about the integrity of the governance that will shape Dalton's future.
A one-day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon. And the main thing is...
During a contentious budget meeting, Trustee Tammy Brown made a clear and reasonable request that the residents and the Finance Committee hold a review before approving the proposed budget. Brown's appeal for transparency and accountability seemed like a logical step to ensure fiscal responsibility. However, Mayor Tiffany Henyard was anything but receptive. Her insistence on bypassing these additional layers of scrutiny was as resolute as it was controversial. Henyard, fixated on her own agenda, was determined to see the budget passed without further delay, ignoring calls for a comprehensive evaluation that could shed light on critical financial concerns. This resistance marked yet another flashpoint in a leadership saga that had grown increasingly contentious. Far from stabilizing the situation, Dalton continued to unravel in the weeks and months following the meeting. The friction between Henyard and the trustees deepened, and the cracks in Dalton's governance system became more apparent. As time passed, the discord escalated from procedural disagreements to a broader outcry against Henyard's entire leadership approach. The trustees, already fatigued from constant battles, grew more frustrated with Henyard's unwillingness to compromise or embrace transparency. Her style of governance, marked by unilateral decision-making and a tendency to dismiss concerns, placed her at odds not only with the board, but also with the residents she claimed to represent. Allegations began to surface that went far beyond political mismanagement, culminating in a flurry of lawsuits leveled against her. These legal challenges accused Henyard of everything from forging checks to withholding financial records, allegations that painted a damning picture of fiscal impropriety. As the lawsuits mounted, so did the frustration and disbelief among both the board and the public, creating a sense of betrayal for residents who had placed their trust in Henyard's leadership. Amid these accusations, the issue of Henyard's spending emerged as one of the most glaring and controversial elements of her tenure. Reports of extravagant expenditures, opaque financial dealings, and the unchecked use of public funds added fuel to the already raging fire. From luxury travel and high-end accommodations to lavish shopping sprees, Henyard's financial choices became emblematic of what many viewed as a complete disregard for fiscal accountability. The growing resentment among trustees and residents alike was palpable, with many questioning how Dalton, a village already struggling with a $7 million deficit, could afford such irresponsible financial behavior from its highest office. For the trustees, this was not merely a disagreement over budgets and meetings. It represented a deeper failure of governance, trust, and leadership. Throughout these months, the atmosphere at board meetings remained tense, with each session feeling less like an opportunity for productive governance and more like a battleground for ideological and procedural warfare. Henyard's persistent focus on asserting control over the board, rather than fostering collaboration, amplified the existing animosity. The budget debate became a symbolic flashpoint, representing not only the fiscal health of Dalton, but also a power struggle over who truly held authority in the small suburban village. Henyard's failure to address concerns or demonstrate accountability fueled a perception of arrogance, deepening the rift between herself, the trustees, and the community. For residents, the stakes felt intensely personal. Calls for transparency and inclusion in financial matters resonated loudly in a village grappling with economic strain. Trustee Brown's suggestion to involve residents in the Finance Committee, which initially seemed like a straightforward way to build trust, now appeared as a necessary measure to regain control over Dalton's fiscal management and hold Henyard accountable. The residents' concerns extended far beyond spreadsheets and line items. They were about trust, faith in their leadership, and ensuring that public resources were being used responsibly. Each new report of misconduct or dubious spending practices further eroded the community's confidence in their mayor. As Henyard persisted in dismissing calls for reform and collaboration, the environment became increasingly hostile. Tensions boiled over in meetings where her defiance clashed with the trustees' growing determination to demand accountability. Legal battles and budget disputes were no longer isolated incidents, but indicative of deeper systemic failings under Henyard's leadership. The situation painted a grim picture of a community on the brink, with its leaders locked in a seemingly intractable struggle for control and integrity. Despite efforts from the trustees to rein in spending, introduce greater oversight, and ensure that the people of Dalton had a voice, the divide between the mayor and the board only widened. The longer Henyard's administration refused to embrace transparency, the greater the gulf became between the government and the community it was supposed to serve. Henyard's leadership choices forged ahead, even as the stakes rose. The community's faith in its leadership was rapidly deteriorating, and the future of the village hung in the balance. What had started as a simple request for transparency had evolved into a full-blown battle for the town's soul, with principles of governance, accountability, and trust now forming the very foundation of a struggle that would shape its future.
It saddens my heart that you are up here at this special meeting and not downstairs where we have big.
A recent report has raised serious concerns about Tiffany Henyard, the mayor of Dalton, Illinois, and her team's extravagant spending using taxpayer money. According to the report, Henyard and her team spent over $67,000 on trips to various cities such as Portland, Austin, Atlanta, and New York City. In Atlanta, they stayed at the luxurious Four Seasons Hotel, racking up a bill of more than $99,000. Meanwhile, in New York, the team stayed at the Marriott Marquis in Times Square, with costs soaring past $113,000. However, these are just surface-level figures. The report claims that Henyard has been using public funds to cover various extravagant purchases, such as first-class flights, high-end hotels, pricey dinners, and even billboards featuring her face around town. Another significant concern is Henyard's spending on personal security. Reports indicate that Henyard has been using taxpayer money to fund her personal bodyguards, including village police officers. These officers have reportedly been assigned to act as her personal security, shopping companions, and even tasked with picking up her daughter from school. The overtime pay for these officers has exceeded $1 million, money that could have been used to enhance public safety in the village. Instead, it appears to have been diverted to provide Henyard with personal protection. This raises questions about whether taxpayer resources should be allocated in this way. Furthermore, Henyard's use of village credit cards has raised eyebrows. According to an investigation led by Special Investigator Lightfoot, Henyard has used the village's financial resources for personal purchases at stores such as Amazon, Target, Walgreens, and Wayfair. One particularly shocking purchase, reported to have been made on Amazon, amounted to $443,000 in a single year. The allegations surrounding these purchases are so serious that they have prompted investigations by the FBI, adding to the mounting concerns about her financial management and ethical conduct. Henyard's controversial actions have extended beyond her spending habits. In a move that shocked many, she fired the chief of police without the village board's approval late last year. This decision led to Robert Collins, the fired police chief, filing a lawsuit against the village. This legal battle is just one of many currently facing the mayor. The residents of Dalton are growing increasingly frustrated. Some have even begun referring to Henyard as the Dalton dictator, accusing her of using her position to retaliate against those who oppose her. Local business owners have also voiced their discontent. For example, Lawrence Gardner, a business owner in Dalton, claims that Henyard closed his trucking company after he refused to donate $3,500 to her political campaign. This is yet another example of how her leadership style is being compared to that of a mob boss. According to some critics, the comparison to Nino Brown, the drug kingpin from the 1991 film New Jack City, is often made due to her authoritarian approach and focus on maintaining control and loyalty. With so many legal battles, controversies, and investigations surrounding Henyard, the future of Dalton remains uncertain. As of now, Henyard remains in power, but her position is increasingly being challenged. The FBI is reportedly looking into her spending, multiple lawsuits are pending, and the Village Board of Trustees is actively opposing her actions. Given all these challenges, it is clear that the situation in Dalton is far from over and is likely to get worse before it gets better. Public reactions to the situation have been varied, with many people expressing frustration at Henyard's leadership style. One resident described her as a filibuster, someone who talks endlessly and quickly, wearing people down with her words. This observation highlights a strategy that Henyard seems to employ. If she talks long enough, perhaps people will tire out and stop questioning her. However, her tactics are not working on the village board, as they continue to stand against her. Another resident made a dark joke suggesting that Henyard's spending habits might eventually lead her to prison, drawing a parallel to the corruption that is often associated with public office. While this comment was made in jest, it carries a kernel of truth. With the FBI's involvement and the mounting lawsuits, there is a growing belief that Henyard's actions could eventually have serious legal consequences. Despite the public outcry and the growing list of investigations, Henyard seems to show little concern for the criticism. She has doubled down on her position, pushing back against her critics and continuing to assert her dominance. At one point during a public meeting, she accused her opponents of attacking her simply because she is a black woman in power. She told the trustees, "You all should be ashamed of yourselves because you all are black. You all are black, and you are sitting up here beating and attacking a black woman that is in power." This bold statement left many in the room speechless and raised further questions about her leadership style and her ability to manage the crisis surrounding her. As the situation continues to unfold, the residents of Dalton are left wondering what the future holds. Will Henyard manage to hold on to power despite the mounting legal challenges and opposition? Will the lawsuits and investigations eventually catch up with her, or will she find a way to sidestep the consequences of her actions? And what about the people of Dalton? Will they continue to support her, or will they demand change in the next election? Only time will tell what the next chapter in the story will be. One thing is certain, the situation in Dalton is far from over, and it is likely to become even more contentious in the coming months. As the investigations continue and the legal battles unfold, all eyes will be on Henyard and her future in office. Will she survive the storm, or will the pressure ultimately bring her down? Only time will reveal the answer.